Hello everyone, I'm Dead Knight and this is In It to Win It. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to get updates for this channel. See all the videos coming out for this new set and all of my decks that are hitting Legend in every season. So today we are looking at a card review for Fractured and Alterac Valley, and we're focusing on Priest. So I'll give you my thoughts on what I think the best card is, the worst card, and the most interesting for the class. Um, First, we got to take a look at what Priest is doing right now. It's probably the most complex class in Hearthstone for design purposes. There's been so many design ideas that have flopped and have not been able to be competitive against other classes. So right now we are seeing Shadow Priest as the dominant archetype of Priest. Control Priest, which has been one of the most frustrating decks to play against, is mostly to the wayside. And so pretty much we're looking at what kind of support are we getting for these, or are there any new archetypes coming out? So once again, it looks like this set is pushing tempo, early game priest, lots of spells that are going to be helping out minions, and that has flopped multiple times in the past and has done absolutely nothing for priest. And most of these cards have just been sitting on the shelf forever. And I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of that again. But I think the best card for priest that they printed is the new hero Xyrella, the Devout. So she costs 8 mana, gives you the 5 armor, and on battle cry it replays all of the minions' death rattles that have gone off this game. So, and then also your hero power alternates between 2 mana, gain 5 life, and 2 mana, deal 5 damage. So depending, the reason why I think this is the best card is because it slots into just about every deck that you can play with Priest. Priest has the Holy Shadow tandem, so pretty much all decks are going to want to at some point be gaining health or dealing damage. At the end game for Shadow, which doesn't really want to gain health, you're typically thinking you're playing this card and then the game ends because you trigger a bunch of death rattles that like Shadowed Spirit that just go right to your opponent's face and kill them. So in that case, you're not really going to need the hero power, but the fact that you have an end game option for a Shadow Priest that doesn't impact your Shadow draw is really nice. So there wasn't really a good option for minions except maybe Alexstrasza. This guy lets you do something that you're already doing anyway, which is playing Shadowed Spirits and sometimes even resurrecting them, and then getting Xyrella to trigger them all again. You're looking at potentially 12 burst damage for 8 mana, or some crazy number like that. And even if you don't kill them, some of the other death rattles that you might be running, spawning minions, things like that are pretty good. On top of Shadow Priest and being a top end option for that, you also can just build your deck around Xyrella and make, a Vandar centered death rattle Shadow Priest where you can turn 4 play Vandar Stormpike, reduce all your minions, and then play some big bomb death rattles, capping it off with Xyrella. So the thing about Xyrella is only getting 5 armor for 8 mana. You're not getting much defense for this. So if you don't win the game when you play it, you really need to have death rattles that take control of the board pretty handily when it happens. Luckily, there is a new priest card that death rattles to deal damage to all your opponent's minions, so that's a great option for a theory crafted deck like that. And I don't even want to get started with wild. You got when you have Sylvanas and all kinds of bonkers death rattle effects in wild, not to mention just more of these deal damage to your opponent when they die, more ways to resurrect them and trigger them again. So the potential for the ceiling for a card like this is through the roof, and there's so many different ways that it ends the game when it comes into play. I think it's going to end up being the best card in the set for Priest, and is going to be a scourge of standard and wild. The only trick is surviving to turn 8. As far as what the worst card is, for me, that's pretty easy. It is the Stormpike Aid Station. So this is a 3 mana spell. At the end of your turn, it gives all your minions 2 health, and that lasts 3 turns. So there are a lot of problems with this card. So the first problem is it is not a shadow spell. So you can't play this in Shadow Priest, so it just won't see play in Shadow Priest, which is the only Priest aggro or tempo deck that has seen any lasting play in recent memory. So you can't play it in the primary deck that would want to use it. So that says to me, okay, well now we have to be playing, some sort of tempo or aggro Priest deck that isn't Shadow Priest. Okay, well if you're running it in there, you have another problem, which is you play this card and it does nothing for you. If you're trying to fight for control of the board with minions and you play a 3-mana spell that doesn't buff your minions the turn it comes into play when you're attacking with your minions, you might lose those minions in a trade, and then it doesn't do anything in turns played. Then you have to be catching up with tempo. You play minions, and at the end of your turn, while they still have Summoning Sickness, they get buffed, which I guess is okay, but at 2 health, the buff is already, marginal at best. So if all your minions for the rest of the game had 2 extra health for 3 mana, it might still not see play. Probably would, because at least they'd get it right when they got into play, and you could use them with Rush. But you have really big tempo problems with this card, and for that reason, I don't think it's going to see play. Unless you have some crazy Divine Spirit Inner Fire combos that you need to set up somehow. But since they don't get the buff until the next turn, it's really hard to do that too. So I don't like the card. I don't like the design. I don't know where it fits anywhere. But as far as interesting cards, I'm going to have to go with Shadow Word Devour. So I was mentioning before about the need for minion buffing early game cheap spell cards to be Shadow, and this one is. So this is a 1-mana Shadow spell that you choose a minion and it steals 1 health from all other minions. So this is a really cool card because it's versatile in a lot of different ways. The most obvious thing is if you have minions on your board, your opponent has minions on their board, and you play this guy, you're essentially doing better than dealing 1 damage to all minions for 1 mana, because you're also buffing one of your minions, so your best minion gets better and potentially kills your opponent's board for 1 mana, and it's Shadow. So you can play it in Shadow Priest. You could also run this as like a Whirlwind style card for a control deck. So 1 mana, you're taking 1 health from all other minions permanently. Even if you have no minions on the board, you say your opponent has 4 minions, you can get rid of 3 small minions and then Shadow Word Death, the one you just buffed, or Shard of the Naru to silence it, or some other way to get rid of it. So even if you have an empty board, it's still going to help you manage your opponent's wide board for 1 mana, which is something that Shadow Priest is really needed. There was a while before United and Stormwind came out when if you would just play around Condemn as an aggro deck, and if you knew where your opponent's Condemns were, or for a while the primary Priest list wasn't running Condemn, so you could just basically run wild over Priest, and that's how I hit Legend with Hunter a couple times. But now with this card, you have to be a little careful. One of your opponent's minions could just really spiral. Some large taunt minion that now all of a sudden gets an extra 5 health while killing some of your minions. That's pretty good. So I really like the design of the card. Again, you want to see cards that are good for one archetype but can also slot into other archetypes, and this is a great one. So let me know what you think of Priest and these picks. Where do you think Priest is going to go in this next expansion? Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave those respectful comments below, and tune in next time.